Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny from Stories from Motorsports, and today we have Josh with us. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, where are you at the moment?
Sitting in my shop, just got done working for the day and just relaxing a little bit before I go inside. So,
Nice. So where are you originally from?
originally, I am from the St. Louis, Missouri area and moved out to Colorado in around 2000. And yeah, so.
So what got you into racing?
I I've always had a fond love for rock crawling and off-roading, and we used to go to off-road races as a kid and monster trucks and, strong influence with all that stuff growing up and into my teen years and getting my first four-wheel drive. And so I left Missouri, when I had the opportunity in college, and moved west to Colorado because that was the mecca, or is the mecca, for rock crawling. And I worked in the off-road industry for many, many years. And I decided that at about late 2006, I decided that I would formulate a team aspect and build a full two buggy and compete a year or two at the most, and then just kind of add that to my resume of the off-road industry experience, and say I did it and had that experience, and got involved formally competing with XRA and We Rock and the R Rock series, and come to find out that I truly loved competing in off-road racing, and had a knack for it, and really found that's where I fit in life. So that's how I got involved.
It's amazing. So who's your biggest off-road racing hero if you had to pick one?
I have a lot of admiration. Kurt Ledoux has always been somebody that I've held dear, as far as somebody that's honorable and respectful in the industry and done well and worked hard. Walker Evans has always been a hero to me in a lot of ways, whether it be from his desert racing days to his rock crawling days. John Nelson, from an innovative standpoint, guy was just a mastermind, and unfortunately we lost him recently. So yeah, those guys are kind of at the top of the list for me for heroes. I have a lot of heroes, though.
You ever seen Parnelli Jones ever race off-road?
I haven't. He got out of racing or quit racing, and unfortunately passed away before I was able to get to see him in person. I've watched a lot of his videos and things like that, but not ever in person. So,
Got
honestly,
it.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest memory in off-road?
That's a tough one there, because I've had a national championship, which is pretty amazing. I've had very first time that I went recreational wheeling with Walker Evans and got to sit and have lunch and have a conversation with him around a sandwich and that kind of thing. That's a big standout. As a kid, getting to go to short course races and monster truck events, and my dad was in the same club and knew Bob Chandler, so having that experience really facilitated my love for it. I can't really pinpoint one specific big memory. I've been very fortunate to have some great experiences around the off-road sport in my life. So
Yeah, how does the concept of off-road competition work? Is it like a random track, or is there a specific course around that's off-road, or how does that work?
Well, I am one of the few guys that compete in two different disciplines. So I compete in the technical rock crawling, which is the We Rock professional series, and then I also compete in the King of the Hammers series. And so, as a real quick, the We Rock professional rock crawling series, that's technical extreme rock crawling. We have a set of gates. We have courses, 4 courses a day. We have a set of gates on those courses, and we have to navigate those courses and get through those gates, very similar to whitewater kayaking or, Olympics canoeing, where you have a set of gates, you have to get through them. And these courses are very, very extreme. I mean, we are climbing, 10, 12-foot walls. We're dropping off of 10 to 15-foot walls, big boulders the size of a minivan. I mean, these are very extreme at the very extreme side of rock crawling. So it's very exciting, very technical, and exhilarating. King of the Hammers, on the other hand, is a combination. It's a blend of that extreme rock crawling that I mentioned before and desert racing. So we'll have a 200-mile loop, and that's a combination of, we might go 60, 80, 90 miles in the desert, and then we come into a rock trail, or maybe 2 rock trails back to back. So we might go 8 miles through the rocks and then back in the desert and then back in the rocks and back in the desert. And so it's a mental game along with an attrition game as well. So competing in both of those disciplines, having completely different support groups, different vehicles, different mindsets, different training, all comes into play to be able to do those. So
I see.
Yeah.
So is that sort of like what Robbie Gordon did with Stadium Super Trucks before he went street racing, or is it like that?
No, Stadium Super Trucks is, that's a loop race like it would be like, tarmac racing or NASCAR in that respect, where the pit's in the same place every time and they stay on the same track and the turn is the same every time. This would be more leaned out, more like the Baja 1000, the Baja 500, the Mid 400, that kind of thing. So,
have you ever raced at Baja in Mexico, or?
I have not, but we are well underway to make that happen. We are in process to make that happen as we speak. So, I haven't done it yet, but we will.
Yeah. Have you ever had a perfect race, you would say?
Man, no, they're all like being in 20 car crashes in the same day. So, no, I couldn't say I've never had a perfect race. I've had some really good races where when we were done, I'm like, that was it? Like, that's it, and we podiumed or we won, and very fortunate there. But I don't know that we've ever had a perfect race. I don't know if that's something that's possible in off-road racing. No.
I mean, it's more likely in NASCAR and go-karting because you can win the pole, all the practices, and lead all the laps and win, Yeah,
and the conditions are more consistent in those environments. Our environment, part of the challenge is the inconsistency in, the terrain, the weather, the duration of time at which we race over. I mean, there's a lot of variables where we're at, and that adds to the fun and the difficulty of it. So,
yeah. How exactly do you win in those trucks? Do you cross the finish line, or is it time-wise, or?
Yeah, so King of the Hammers, to go into that, like we race against the clock, and we will have other guys in our class, but effectively we're racing against the clock, and the fastest one over the course and the mileage and the checkpoints and VCPs and stuff wins. And the technical rock crawling, it's not a speed thing, it's more about a point structure. So there's points for backing up, there's points for hitting a cone, there's points for different things like that. And so that is like golf in the respect of the lower the score, the winner. And you can achieve on a negative score because there's bonus gates and that kind of thing. So so it just depends on which style. But
what's your funniest moment in competition?
Funniest moment in competition. I used to compete, a really good one is I used to compete in this series called XRA, and it was Extreme Rock Racing. It's no longer the Weavers, Mike and Jody Weaver put it on. But at the time, my wife was my co-driver, and we had a great time at that. It was on what you would consider to be a short course, and it was an extreme terrain. It was like a combination of like short course desert trucks with like extreme rock crawling obstacles along the way, and you went head to head against another guy and you win, and then it was all based on time. And one time my wife and I are in this course, and we're going along and we're clipping along pretty good and we're doing really well, and the buggy just shuts off, like somebody just unplugged it, and I reach down and I've got no power anywhere. Well, then I'm turning the on and off switch, I turn the master disconnect off and I turn it back on, and all of a sudden I've got power, but the car won't start. And I'm in the middle of the course during the race. The clock is running. Stress is at level 1000. And all that season we have been dealing with this mysterious electrical gremlin, and we didn't know what was going on. The car had been rewired, and obviously something had happened. So my wife jumps out of the car, and she says, maybe it's the coil wire. And so she was supposed to, the communication was, she was supposed to verify if it was plugged in or not. If it wasn't, to plug it in and then let me know, and then I would try to restart the car. Well, somehow in the midst of all the chaos, she grabs a hold of the coil wire, which is plugged into an MSD box and a high-zoom coil and a control box and a distributor and all this. And she grabs a hold of it, and I think that she is okay and has plugged it in, and I hit the start button, and the car started, and in the process, it literally knocked her off her feet. And luckily for her, she fell in the direction of the course judge, and the car started, and I threw it in gear and took off and finished the course, leaving her there with the course judge, and made it back to the pit. And we had actually done pretty well that weekend, and as to my surprise, I was back there and happy that we finished, and we were in the hunt, and here she came, and you can imagine that she wasn't as happy with that finish as I was. So that's a funny story we relish in from time to time, and it's funny to hear my side of it versus her side of it. So it was a comical thing, and she was okay. She didn't get hurt, but that changed a few things in our communication, not only in racing but in our relationship. So.
Yeah, that reminds me of a funny story I have from my karting days. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
When I used to race go-karts in my early teens, I was pretty good at K1 and won quite a bit of races that I competed in. I shanghaied my older brother into competing in a race for the team that I was running for, although he was in the part-time one,
Yeah.
And in his very first race, he actually qualified very, very good. He qualified second, and I qualified like fifth. And
oh, wow.
yeah, and when the race got green, he took off from everybody, and I sort of followed. And so by the time that we got onto lap 3, he was far ahead of me, and I started to have a feeling that it was going to be a 1-2 finish. He was going to win his first race, and I was going to be the person who's like, second really stinks, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the bridesmaid.
Yeah,
the bridesmaid position. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to be happy for him if he won, because it would have been unusual to win on his debut.
Yeah, that's cool.
But then what happened was, on lap 3, right after he completed the lap, I drove down the front stretch and saw that he was parked in the next turn, not able to move.
Oh, no.
And so I saw that something had broken on his go-kart, and the yellow flag waved. And as I went right past him, I sort of waved my hand to him as if to say, goodbye. And he just...
See you later, dude. Yeah.
Yep. See you later. I'm off to victory lane.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I looked over... Oh, what was that?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And as I went past him, I saw him banging his fist on the wheel in frustration.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Did he ever race again after that?
He sort of said afterwards that it wasn't his thing, but he loved the experience. And
wow.
I ended up leading the rest of the race and won flat out. But
wow, that's cool. Sounded like he was probably maybe had a little bit of a natural talent for it, huh? Or was good at it, maybe.
He had,
at least.
Yeah, he had a natural talent for a lot of things. He was in choir in school and stole the headlines in the newspaper for our hometown one time, and he also was athletic and all that. So he could have done go-karting, but that probably wasn't his best memory.
Yeah, I bet not. Still a funny story though. That's a good one.
Yeah, it was just, he and I joked about it afterwards, and I asked him while standing on the podium, I was like, where'd you finish? And he told me, last.
Yeah.
And I was like, go ahead.
First while he was, though.
Yep, he was in first while he was, and he led 3 laps, so he didn't get nothing out of it, but obviously he would have liked to finish better.
Yeah.
Sibling rivalry, Yeah,
oh yeah, that's good stuff, though. That's good. At one point in time, you and him were 1-2 in that race. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was... And I think he would have won if he kept continuing, because it was only 30 laps, but, it It was a road course, obviously, like a lot of them are.
Right.
And those
Yep,
take a long
definitely.
time to go around.